Hello, Hawaii Frubbins. It's been a while. Best of intentions, right? I wanted to keep recording, but just fell off the wagon, so to speak. A big part of my journey and what I was talking about on my channel is that homeostasis. And the higher the highs, the lower the lows. But I'd flipped that and done it the other way around by, the lower the lows, the higher the highs. But in all fairness, there are some lows too. And it wouldn't be honest if I pretended that life was always perfect, because it's not. And the greatest lessons I learn, me personally, aren't from the victories. They're from working through, again, through, not around, over, under, but through issues. So it's been a bit of a dismal era in my life. I've been really good, at least I thought, well, pat myself on the back, because I have, about not letting things, not reacting to things that I have no control over. For instance, the loss of my daughter and the fact that, she has chosen to cut me out of her life. I have tried and tried, but it got to the point where all it did was hurt me and got nothing from her in return. So my brain learned to kind of switch that off, because there was no point in thinking about it, because all it did was ruminate. And the brain is your friend. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, as it wants to solve problems for me, but sometimes it can't, and it thinks it's helping, but I have to tell it, like, nope, I'm good right now, thank you, I know you care about me, rather than, you're the enemy and stop bothering me with this. I know it means well, and again, depending on where you are in your journey, you'll either understand that or disagree, agree, or completely think I'm crazy. And you are respected enough to do with it as you wish for you. Just, I ask that you don't invalidate anyone else that has a different process. So in June of this year, the love of my life, my second husband, who we had divorced because there were other issues going on in the marriage that I thought weren't healthy. His drinking, some infidelity at times, not being super responsible. But man, I loved that man. And we were still talking. He was remarried, and I didn't want to be disrespectful, neither did he. It was strictly a friendship level. But we talked, 2 or 3 times a month. And he had actually turned his life around enough that he was running what was called the Heart and Mind Connection, which was a podcast type show to kind of counsel or, help people that were going through issues of mental illness, whether it was because of, being a veteran or other PTSD, bipolar, life. And I was so proud of him for that. And he took his life in June. And I'm not saying it didn't affect me. I just handled it differently. But now I guess I'm discovering something. I'm sure it's already a term. It's just that I didn't know about it, and I'm going to call it delayed grief. And it's hitting me like a brick wall. And it's not like I'm throwing a pity party for myself or saying, poor me, how could he do this to me? Not that at all. What I'm feeling is just a longing and a sorrow and missing someone who was one of the most wonderful people to ever grace this earth. Everyone has issues, and some are things that some people can deal with and some can't. And you know, he wasn't everyone's cup of tea, and people wouldn't approve of everything that he had done. And you know, I've made mistakes too. But I almost feel like changing my status to widow because he was my lobster. And no disrespect if his recent wife that unfortunately was there, or, you know, was in his life physically when this happened. He took his life days before anyone found him. And again, he ran a show to help other people. And what do you do with that, right? Where do you go from there when the person that you're looking to help you can't even find the help? And so the point of this is twofold. And one is that it seems like social media has a way of making us all look like the Wizard of Oz. And we're not. I'm not. Maybe some people are. Maybe some people do have the absolutely perfect life, and that's good for them. I don't. And I'm not going to ever lie and pretend that I do, because I think that does not just an injustice to other people, but an injustice to myself. And so I'm starting to feel how much I miss him. And so like I said, one point of doing this is just to give an example again of the homeostasis, and that things aren't always perfect. And that's okay. It's part of life. It's what you do with what happens, I think, that matters. And the other thing is, if you'll allow me to get on my proverbial soapbox for just a moment. I know that there's certain words we're not allowed to say, and I've got a thing on that, but I'm not monetized, so I believe I can say suicide. I don't have to make up these code words like yellowed himself, or just ridiculous, I think, ways around it. So my other point is that years and years ago, when my brother-in-law took his life, I was angry. And I thought that that was selfish. And I subscribed wholly and entirely to the belief that if someone chooses to do that, it's nobody else's fault but that person's. And this is going to more than likely be a very unpopular opinion, and you don't have to agree. You can change the channel, you can do whatever you want. But we do have a responsibility when it comes to suicide. We may not be the one putting the rope around the neck, or handing the pills, or, euthanizing. But our lack of actions, and our lack of understanding, and our lack of acceptance, how subjectively you see that. I'm not saying embrace it, and I'm not saying encourage it by any means. But what I'm saying is that we do have a responsibility to people. There is so much pain out there that people choose to deny as factual. And Robin Williams is one of the best examples of that I can think of. And I may be incorrect, but my understanding was that if you're in the entertainment business, or even if you're not and you're just, exposed to people who are, you fully understand, or at least have some understanding, that the stage is their therapy. It's our therapy, especially comedians. And so when Robin Williams took his life, people couldn't believe it because he was a funny man. He made people laugh. How could he possibly be depressed? No. It had to be the Parkinson's that was set on, that he was developing. It was getting worse. And then it had to be the fact that he took too many drugs. I don't think anybody, again, I could be wrong. Drugs are to numb and to alter feelings. I do not think that, at least for sure, as large of a proportion as people think, that people intentionally take drugs to overdose. I think they take it to numb the pain, and they take too much. But the story I understand from Robin Williams, if you'll humor me, no pun intended, is he was hurting, and he wanted to use his life as an example to prove to people that depression and mental health are real issues, and that when your options outweigh, or when your pain outweighs your foreseeable options, that is when you're in the danger zone. And if you can hold on and breathe another breath and take another second, then maybe another option will come to you. But if not, that is the tipping point. But he wanted people to know that it wasn't a thing. It wasn't made up. And the biggest insult that he could have been paid was that people didn't believe him even after he passed. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong what he did. But I do commend him for trying to show other people through his pain that this can stop. At least it can be minimized. And the main point of this that I want to get to is, you may think that you have no responsibility in someone else's choice to end their pain, that it's all on them. But when you say something, when you invalidate, when you shut them out, when you won't listen and give them a voice, and you don't have to agree, but just listen to them so that they feel heard, then you are part of the problem. Because that person may have been right on that precipice, and all they needed was to know that you still cared. And when you turn around and shame them for it, it's akin to me to pulling the proverbial trigger. Now, I'm not saying that you are responsible, but you are definitely a contributing factor. We don't live in the dark ages anymore where we can just say that's not our problem. Well, you can say that. I take that back. You can say whatever you want. But I would just implore you to take a different look. You know, there used to be these commercials like, call them up, ask them how they're doing. And I know it was uncomfortable, and it's freaking uncomfortable for the person going through it too, because we're frightened to death to talk. Because believe it or not, when we do, it comes back to bite us in the freaking ass, to the point where we wish we hadn't said a thing, because now it's even that much more painful to know the shame that we feel when you look at us. You may not be depressed, and you may have never thought of ending your pain. And that is amazing and a blessing. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people that love you and could use a hug or an ear, a shoulder, your time. So the next time someone is feeling down, keep that in mind, that you literally, and let's start using that word correctly again, shall we? You literally could be holding their life in your hands. So choose wisely what you do with that.